Hey everyone, welcome to the Grind Together podcast. We're the Grinders. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Matt. And on this podcast, we want to create opportunities for growth through real conversation.
Let's go. All right, you guys, I need to share with you one of my most favorite products on the face of the earth. Like if I was stranded on a desert island, this would be something I would bring with me. It is the skincare products from the Daily Essential Co. I love their cleanser. I love their two, like Skin Bay and Jojo Bay. Literally, I own everything that they've ever put out, and it has drastically changed my skin. And Matt also uses it.
Well, I just figured the stuff for guys, like I never could figure it out. And so I just figured I was like, your skin always looks good, so I might as well just use what you use. And I shave every morning. And so after I shave, I was using an aftershave and I was breaking out. But the moisture, what's it called? The one that we use?
Skin Bay.
Skin Bay. When I use that, nothing burns anymore. My skin starts to be smooth. Like I don't have ingrown hairs. It's actually really cool.
And I also love, like my skin is naturally really prone to acne, and my skin's also so dry. And all of our kids have eczema. You have eczema. I have eczema. Like We live in a very natural, like naturally dry climate. And the Daily Essential Go has been like a key point staple in our household since day one, and we're so excited to finally partner with them to offer you guys 10% off of your orders if you type in TDE Grind Together, or if you just click the link in the show notes, it'll take you directly to their site. I can promise you that everything you order there is worth its weight in gold. I would recommend the cleanser and either Skin Bay or Jojo Bay. Jojo Bay is great if you have more acne prone skin. The bases are just different in them, but I use both and we absolutely love them. Like I said, we both use them. So go treat yourself. Go get 10% off your order at the Daily Essential Co.
So we've been listening to this book lately by Brianna Wiest.
Yep.
Brianna Wiest. What's her name?
I think it's one of those two.
Oh, okay, cool. It's called The Mountain Is You. And we kind of wanted to talk about it because there's a lot of things that pertain to our personal lives and even our kids lately, right?
Yeah, no, that's true that you bring that up.
But yeah, and the basis of it is like, do you feel happy in your life? And if you don't, there's a reason for it. And what is the reason? And can we address what it is?
Yeah, the whole book is on like self-sabotage and what we do as human beings to self-sabotage. And it's really interesting to look at. And you and I had a lot of conversations about this recently as far as like happiness and mental health and all of these things. Like you and I personally, like in our marriage, have had so many conversations about this. Yeah. And it's been so interesting because I grew up in and I still have this mentality where it's like, okay, I have a problem and I'm unhappy. And instead of like dwelling on it and being like, woe is me, and like air quotes playing the victim card, or being, like in a victim mind state, or like letting it keep you depressed or numb or in apathy, I had the mentality of like, what are you going to do to change it? And it's something with you that drives you crazy a lot of the times.
Yeah,
it used to, because I'd be like, you'd come to me with a problem and I'd be like, so what are you going to do to change it? Like, because that's just how my mind works. Do you know what I mean? It's very much like, okay, you're unhappy, so what are we going to do to change it? You don't like how you look. How are you going to change it? You're unhappy with your job. How are you going to change it? And we've talked a lot about this on this podcast. And I feel like it goes one or two ways, because I think a lot of times people love to sit in like the woe is me kind of category because they don't really know how to change it, because change is scary, and change in a whole of like, I'm unhappy and I don't even know how to, make this next move is sometimes, a lot of times, like it's like, oh, I don't even know how to do that. And so when you say to me like, I'm unhappy, and I'm like, what are you going to do to change it? Like, so what? So like, it's kind of like the rub dirt in it and get over it kind of mentality. And I know that that's really harsh, but there is a part of me in my core that like, I love to process through things with people, and I love to hear and listen to like the experiences that they went through. But I truly believe in the day and age that we live in, we use our past traumas and we use the things that have happened to us in the past almost as crutches a little bit. And we keep ourselves so stuck on what happened in the past that we never progress forward. There's never there's never any trajectory of like, what do you want moving forward? It's always like, so what happened to you and how did you process that? And, how do you feel about that? And like, I believe that is very, very, very much needed. Like we literally do that in coaching.
Yeah.
But there comes a point where there's a trajectory where it needs to change. And we need to be like, we've processed everything. We've felt these emotions. We've worked through these things in the past.
Yeah.
Let's have that mindset shift, or let's create new pathways in your brain to propel you forward into what are you wanting, to creating the life that you actually deserve. Because staying stuck is what's keeping you, like in my opinion, you're self-sabotaging yourself by staying stuck and just focusing 100% on, well, when I was 4, I was molested. And when I was 19, I got raped and all of these things. It's like, those things are really heavy and they need to be processed. But there's only so many times I can go back and blame those things happening to me on why I'm still stuck and unhappy in my life right now.
Wow, look at you.
I'm passionate about this today, apparently.
But there was one thing that you didn't say, and it's everything that you're kind of saying, it bottles up into somebody playing the victim.
Yeah.
And we know that, and what we teach is that nobody's coming to save you. And if you could take 100% accountability for your life, then your life will look so much better going forward.
It's funny that you said that though.
Why?
Because I sent you a reel today that talked about people saving other people. Like it was literally that, which was interesting and not in that context.
We'll
but
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
It's different.
But that's funny.
That mindset shift for me, because I was very much playing the victim, and I have played the victim the majority of my life.
Yeah.
And the circumstances of not understanding that I actually can take action for myself, however weak that sounds, was real for me, right? And I didn't understand that there was this version of me that was suppressed by a lot of things like what you're saying, because all of those things are real. And that's kind of why I love what we're doing, because you can take like the therapeutic approach of validation and understanding your past and understanding all of your traumas. But then like what you're saying is, what do you do with it then?
And I think that's the difference, like in coaching. And I think that's why I navigated towards coaching.
There's so many people that are trying to heal from those things that have made them who they are right now. But then we get to look at who we actually are right now, and the fact that those things have actually helped us be who we are.
Yeah.
And then now we get the choice to be somebody different in the future if we want, to go and create the life that we want to take 100% accountability and to save ourselves on a continual basis. It does take, and I think this is where you were going, it does take somebody else to kind of bring that out of you a lot of the times.
For sure.
And somebody else to save you, so you can then have that type of mentality of like, wow, I can be happy on my own and I don't need somebody else to influence my happiness. It's super popular, but a Brianna Wiest quote says, your new life is going to cost you your old one. It's going to cost you your comfort zone and your sense of direction. It's going to cost you your relationships and friends. It's going to cost you being liked and understood. And so that's so true going forward in your life. Now that you know your past traumas, which is something that we help people find out, right? Through meditation, through connection to self. That's all what happens. But then once you have those answers, now you have to formulate a different opinion on what life actually is.
Yep. It's interesting thinking about it in the terms of, okay, like what is self-sabotage, right? And like, what does self-sabotage look in?
Well, define it for me for yourself. Like what, like when you say self-sabotage, what are you like actually saying?
My interpretation of self-sabotage is not doing the things that are going to propel me to grow and move forward and be like the best, highest version of myself, whatever that looks like. Maybe that's not like progression and moving forward, but it's anything that's stopping me from being the 100% like who Lauren is as an individual, right? Like my truest form of myself, like that to me is anything that doesn't align with that, that's self-sabotage. So that's all the things that are getting in the way. Those are the things that I'm using to disassociate. Those are the conversations that I'm not having. Those are the fear in life that's keeping me stuck in the position where I'm unhappy, or I'm not moving forward, or I'm not having the conversations that I need to have, or I'm not doing the things that I want to do because I'm so scared. Like I truly think self-sabotage, fear plays a huge aspect in the self-sabotage world, right? I also think it lies a lot in my relationships with people. I self-sabotage a lot of relationships, or like to myself, because I'm so scared of getting hurt. or I'm so scared of being told that I'm too much, or that,
Yeah.
you know, like someone's going to find a friend that's better. It brings like an ugly side out in me that I don't really, truly, I don't like. Like, if I'm being totally honest, like, I don't like that version of me. I said to you the other day, I was like, I'm just a jealous bitch. Like, and I was joking when we were talking about something, and I was like joking around, but like, there's a lot of truth in that. And like, that's just who I've naturally always been, because I'm constantly searching for evidence of why I'm not good enough. And that for me is self-sabotage, where I'm constantly like looking for evidence of why you should leave me, or why, you know, my parents are mad at me, or why it's really interesting that this is even coming up, because I just barely was like, I hate when people play the victim card, but it is something that lingers in the back of my head. And I think I put on a really strong front. I think like a lot of the women I've met lately are very like strong, independent, like they come across very like, fuck everybody, like I don't need a man, like I don't need anybody, like I'm a boss bitch, like I got this, right? Like, and I think I kind of throw that energy out a lot of the times of like, I don't need anybody, like you can't hurt me, like I don't care if anybody likes me, when like deep down I'm like, well, I do want you to like me, like I don't want to come across like that, like I want to be loving and I want to be accepting, and like I actually have a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings, and like I'm scared if I let you see that and then you reject me, then what? Do you know what I mean? And that's a whole topic for another day.
Yeah, but that's the coolest part of like the relationship that you and I have created, is that you have this go mentality where you don't necessarily self-sabotage a lot. Mm-hmm. But I had this like, hold on, I'm going to tap into my feelings and I'm going to like play the victim more, right? And it's like we're teaching each other, and we're kind of marrying these two worlds of like, hey, go get shit done with your life, right? But then also understand that your feelings and like your true self is waiting for you to like unlock, so you can go get those things done. And it's cool that, because what you did for me, to get me out of my, I mean, I called it a shit, what did I call it? Shame cycle, right? Or like staying in my shit dome is what I used to call it, is every time that and here's the thing, not to go off on a tangent, but I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know how to not self-sabotage, and for lack of a like better understanding, I really didn't even understand what I needed to do to not be the person that I was. And I think that came with the understanding of kind of what you went down to, of like, who actually am I and what do I actually want? And I think that realization for you, if somebody's going to hold space for you that way to understand your feelings and what you actually want, will then help you stop self-sabotaging, because you get to see what the things that are actually bringing you down at that point. Right?
Yeah.
Because there is this life that we're living, and if you are unhappy in your life, you understand that there is some room for change, and you want something different. But we continually bring ourselves down because we don't know what the next thing is, or even how to get there. Right?
It's funny that you're like, you didn't self-sabotage, because in my world, I 100% did, because I was go.
Which was the
self-sabotaging. It was like, it was like, and that's the coolest part about this book. So if you haven't read it, like I would like, it's going in like my top 5 favorite books ever, because it really helped me sit back and understand that like self-sabotage isn't necessarily what we are doing. It's what we're not doing. And so like, it's even like what you just said, where you're like, I didn't know how to get out of this cycle. So it was like, okay, well, what am I not doing? Like for me, it was like, I was doing all these things that made me feel like productive, air quotes, right? Or like by the world standards, were very productive. But in return, I was neglecting a huge part of me that needed to slow down, and that needed to actually feel. And that's, I think, what you're saying, as far as like what we were able to kind of provide for each other, was like, you got to show me that. And that's the coolest part about a relationship, is that I was able to kind of look at you, and you also gave me this space to do that. You gave me the space to be like, hey, I made you this really nice tub, and I think you should go sit in here for an hour. And I was like, what? Who does that?
Yeah.
And then the like more I was able, and like almost was given permission to be like, hold on, I actually think I need this. I wasn't self-sabotaging anymore, in my opinion. So like, I think when you look at self-sabotage, it's not what you are doing, it's what you're not doing to be the best version of yourself, or to have the life that you want.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love that.
One of the quotes in the book that I love, and it's a little bit long, but I'm going to read it. Grabbing my laptop here so we can read it. And it ties into the happiness aspect of all of this. But it says, happiness is not something that you can chase. It is something that you have to allow. This will likely come as a surprise for many people, as the world is so adamant about everything from a positive psychology and motivational standpoint. But happiness is not something that you can coach yourself into. Okay? Happiness is your natural state. This means that you will return to it on your own if you allow the other feelings you want to experience to come up, be felt, be processed, and not resisted. The less you resist your unhappiness, the happier you will be. It is often just trying too hard to feel one certain way that sets us up for failure.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn. I read that and I was like, ooh.
Well, a short way to say that too is just be.
Yeah.
Right? Because all of the outside influences are from what she's saying is what's making you unhappy. And you have happiness in you innately already. It is you. You are happy. But we take on everything from the outside world and that causes our unhappiness. And like we even did it to regrettably, we even did it to our 9-year-old where we'll continually put him down truthfully. And this sucks to even admit, but like in his world, he probably feels like he's not enough for us.
Yeah. Now
right?
you say that. Yeah. Like
and even though we love him, we couldn't love him more. Still, as parents trying to figure it out, it's like, oh wow, how do we create this space for somebody else to understand that like happiness is an individual thing? Because right now he's just taking on everything from us, which we've done from our parents and from our coworkers and everybody we've associated ourselves with.
Yeah. It's an interesting, like, I just like, it's so funny sometimes when we have these conversations because I like have these little light bulbs of like things have happened in the week or things that we've come up against. And I even said that to you. We had like our youngest two at a restaurant for lunch one of these days. And our 3-year-old was like throwing like a holy come apart tantrum over not wanting to eat lunch. Which he normally does. Yeah. And he really wanted to play my phone. And like, I'm trying so hard not to be like a here's my phone kind of mom. There's like a lot of guilt there, which is stupid because I should just let that go. But there is. And I wanted him to be like attentive and like and it's an expectation I have for him and I need to just let that go. But it was so funny because he was freaking out and I instantly was like taking it upon myself of like, oh my gosh, like I'm a bad mom because he's acting like this. And like it was funny, I had an energy reading a while ago that talked really specifically about especially the kids, because I think that that's where a lot of times like my inadequacy, I feel that a lot in like motherhood,
like mom guilt.
Yeah, and just being a mom in general, I had to really sit down and be like, being a mom is something that from a really young age, like I always wanted to do. I always knew I wanted kids, and now that I have kids, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna cry. Now that I have kids, I'm like, oh, I suck at this. Like I'm not good at this. Like why when I was 10 or 11 or 12 or even like 15, 16, 17, did I think that I was going to be this like, I had this expectation of like what a mom should be or what a mom should look like or what a mom should do. And it's not even like modeled after my own mom. Like I look at my own mom in such like an incredible light, but like it wasn't even that. Like I don't even know where this idea of what a mom should be was formed in my head. And so it was interesting that came up in that energy reading because a lot of my happiness relies on if my kids are happy.
Yeah.
And a lot of my happiness relies on if they feel like their needs are being met and like they're doing the things that they want to do. And it's so hard because I don't have any control over them. And I don't have any control over if they're happy or not. All I can do is just do my very best and know that that's what I'm doing. And so I think that's like tying that into the happiness side of it is like I can self-sabotage myself all day long by focusing on the things that I am doing as a mom, but instead of shifting that and looking at like, well, what am I not doing? And like I can sit here and I can like get really vulnerable and honest of like I'm actually not providing that emotional intimacy for my kids that they probably need
at times.
Yeah. And I'm not showing up for them in a way that like I actually genuinely want to because I let my ego get in the way a lot of the times where I'm like, screw you. Do you know how hard I work for you? Like, go get over it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the mentality I had at the very beginning of this episode where it's like, okay, cool. We talked about this and we processed it. Like, move on. Like, you're good. Like, do better. Do you know what I mean? And so it's just interesting.
Well, you said one thing that I think ties into all of this, and it's the word control. When we can't control something in our lives, that's when we actually start self-sabotaging. Like when there is a want that we are wanting, and we can't control anybody else in getting that sucks. Like when our circumstance is uncontrollable. And so what you have to understand is what you do control in those moments, and that's yourself and how you can portray these things. Like you even said, you can't control our kids into making you happy or to being a certain way or acting a certain way. The one person that you can control, and this is for everyone in the world, and this is where happiness actually lies, is yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So even if they are, and this is where her quote actually ties in as well, like, even if the outside world is going crazy, how are you doing because of that? Right. So all of these things, if we can get to a point where we can feel our feelings, sit with them, recognize them, and pull them out, and let all this outside world, our relationship to the outside world, pull out all of these insecurities and fears and why we get mad and everything like that, and we can sit with those feelings and emotions, then we get to look at who we actually are and address the happiness inside of us that's already there, right? It was actually told to us like this week that we got a difference of opinion on this, where somebody told me, I don't think people are just genuinely happy. I think that that's created, right? And so I love this contrast of, no, happiness lies within you once you address why you're getting mad at everything else or why you're getting sad at everything else.
Well, I think that the reason for that is because when like someone believes that happiness isn't created,
Mm-hmm.
that it has to be created, right? That it doesn't just live within you, and it's not just like a state of being, right? Like that's somebody, in my opinion, that has been shown like conditional love of like, you need to have X, Y, and Z in order to, you know, be worth something or have anything.
For sure.
And when we look at, okay, when we process these emotions, right? Like we use an emotion chart when we coach, and the emotion chart has been something for us that has been so life-changing, like even using it, especially using it in our relationship, but like we use it now just in talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's become like truthfully a part of our like DNA. I feel like I don't, and I found myself communicating with people like we do. Do you know what I mean? And using it all the time.
But here's where I love you, and why I love you is because you can be this hard ass of like, hey, just go get shit done and get over it and all of this. But then you can also drop down to like, okay, cool. We use our emotion chart all the time, right? So sorry, keep going.
We do. No. And I think that's a good point though, is because it's like, okay, let's realize what emotion we're in, right? Like a lot of times people are living in fear. I live in fear all the time. Actually, a great example I will give everybody right now is probably earlier this week or like towards the end of last week.
Yeah.
I was totally in apathy. And apathy is an emotion where you're just kind of like numb. You're kind of just like going about your day, and like you're just kind of like there, right? And I was kind of avoiding everything. Like I was like doing the things I knew I needed to do, but like I had all this stuff in the back of my mind that was just like haunting me almost, is like literally the best word to put. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there, and because we use the emotion chart so much beforehand, I would have just been like, oh, I'm really off today. Or like, oh, like I'm just feeling like I'm just off. Like I'm probably gonna start my period. Like, I don't know. Right.
But to the outside world, like you're not happy.
No, I was kind of just like RBF, like numb, very just kind of like
today I don't feel very good.
Yeah. Like I wish I could just cuddle up in my bed. Yeah. I'm just going to cuddle up in my bed and like go to sleep. Like I wish I could just sleep or like numb out, right? Whatever that looks like for me. Scroll on my phone, whatever. So I had this like realization. It was so funny. I was like going through my day and I didn't really realize it. And we were walking somewhere. Like we were like walking into a restaurant or something. And I was like, oh, I'm in apathy right now. And I was like, fuck, this sucks. And I think it was the first time that I was like, hold on. I was able to address that emotion and address it not in shame. It was just like, okay, like I feel like shit and I know why I feel like shit. And so the emotion scale is something that I love.
Was that like your like self-sabotage cycle though? Like, you know, when you get to that point, you know, you're being who you need to be. You're doing what you need to do.
I just am not doing something that I should be doing, right? Or I'm going to say should be doing. And so I have to look at the things because if not, I'm going to forget. So if I'm in apathy, right, there's guilt below it and there's desire above it, or there's grief above it.
Yeah.
And so I got to sit there and be like, okay, I'm numb. I'm trying to numb out right now. I don't want to be, I'm grumpy. Everything's bugging me. What am I guilty about? And I got to get really, really honest with myself about what guilt I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, was a self-sabotage for me for a really long time, was I would just like look at that numb state and I'd be like, you need to fucking get over it. Yeah. Like I said, right?
Rather than address your feelings, yeah.
Rather than take the 15 minutes this took me to do to process it all, to be like, hold on. And sometimes it's going to take longer than that. Like,
but I like what you said. I like where you went with that, as far as like, I feel numb. What do I feel guilty for?
Yeah, what do I feel guilty for? Yeah. And then like, hold on, what am I grieving?
Yeah.
And it was almost like the acknowledgement of what I was grieving helped bring me out of that state of apathy to be like, hold on. Because then I got to sit in the grief of like, I'm grieving that like life would be easier if I didn't do X, Y, and Z, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I got to actually really look at that and ask myself if I really believed that was true.
Yeah.
And to say like, okay, cool. Do I really actually believe that, you know, my kids would be better behaved if I was home more, or that, you know, like life would be easier if I wasn't an entrepreneur and I just had a 9-to-5. Like, do I really believe that? Is that really the life that I'm grieving?
Yeah.
Am I really grieving my past life? And it's like, am I? Okay, maybe, but what about it? Am I? And then it's like, do I really believe that? And it's like, no, I don't. And then I can progress forward, right? Mm-hmm. Because then I formulated an opinion of like, no, actually, I don't believe that. I chose what I chose for a reason. And it is a little bit hard, but what am I not doing to make it easier? So like, oh, I'm not very disciplined in my schedule. I could change that. Boom. Problem solved.
Yeah. And so, I mean, even sticking with the emotions, the reason that somebody usually is unhappy is because there is something that they're scared of, but know they need to be doing that they're not.
Oh, yeah.
And so fear is our emotion there, right? So you saying, hey, I feel numb, I'm in apathy, we're going to work all the way up to I'm sad, which goes to, wait, hold on. I'm afraid of something.
Yeah.
What am I avoiding right now? Because in avoidance is where we go down to these lower states and lower emotions. If I'm avoiding something that I know would propel me to go to the next level, then I am self-sabotaging, right? So anytime that we feel fear, like we always say this all the time, it's like, that's when you need to act. And when you don't act, that's where that's where unhappiness lies, is when we're not taking action on the things that we know we want to be doing, because it seems too scary to actually do them. And the reason that it seems too scary to actually do them is because you've never been there before. Mm. Like, you have never been that person before. And like, I can speak to the masses on that, because it was myself doing that same thing. It's like, it's really scary to post the post. It's really scary to say the thing. It's really scary to ruffle feathers, right? It's scary to be honest. It's scary as fuck to tell the truth. But I know when I do, that's when I become happy. And when I don't, that's when I go back down to guilt and shame, just like what you were saying. So yeah, this cycle of self-sabotage, it all happens. And I think the way out of it is, you're spot on. I think it's your emotions. Well, it's understanding those emotions and understanding why you're in the stages that you're in.
Yeah, she talks about too, like rage and getting angry, and like how we've talked about this so many times. And I feel like a lot of times people either like roll their eyes at us and they're like, whatever, you guys are crazy, or they're like, yeah, we get it, right? And it's like, but anger is can be such a positive emotion.
Yeah.
And anger is really what drives you forward and propels you forward. And she says that in the book, like, get angry. Yeah. I want you to get angry. Feel your anger. Like, you're unhappy in your life. Why? Get angry about it, because that is when change is going to happen. That's when things change. That's when you have the hard conversations. That's when you tell the truth, is when you're like so fed up. And anger, instead of looking at it as like rage of like, you know, punching and like physical abuse and all that, because I do understand that that is something that plays into effect for a lot of people. Get angry. There's so much healing that comes from that. We got to go on a date night just recently where we went to a smash room.
Yeah, we did. That was fun.
And I had some things from my past that I just needed to release. And every time I looked at them, they were such huge things in my life that I had placed so much value on. Mm-hmm. And if you've seen Harry Potter, this is going to sound crazy, but if you've seen Harry Potter, you have like the Horcruxes and you put like parts of yourself in each thing, right?
Yeah.
I really felt like there was a past version of myself that I really couldn't let go in these things that I needed to get rid of. And it didn't feel sufficient enough to just throw them away. I needed to do something, right? And so I was like, I really want to go to the Smash Room. So we went to the Smash Room and I beat the shit out of those things.
Yeah.
And it felt so good. And I got to like vocalize like what I was feeling. And there were lots of F words said. And there was like, screw you. And like, you know, you didn't show up for me how I wanted you to. And like, I'm mad at myself for this. And like, it was really therapeutic to do that. But
that's so cool.
That's why I say like, there was a part of me that really dwelled on that version of myself for a really long time. Like I threw myself a fucking pity party for months about it.
Yep.
And I finally feel like I'm like, I can breathe. And I literally think that I needed to feel that anger, and I couldn't feel it in a way that like, I couldn't go yell at the person that I was pissed off at because I would have ruined that relationship, and I don't want to ruin that relationship. And I've already tried to communicate my feelings towards like that scenario.
Yeah.
It just hasn't really been received, but I'm choosing to still be in the relationship because I absolutely love this person. And it's a relationship that like, I never want to go away because it means so much to me. But I needed to process it, and I needed to feel fucking pissed off at what happened. And I needed to get mad at 28-year-old Lauren who like, I needed to be like, listen, I got you. And like, guess what? No one fucking shut up for this. And you thought it was a big deal. Like, let's go. Yeah. Like, we're going to rage. Let's go. And it felt so good. And I left, and you asked me when we left, you're like, how do you feel? And I was like, I literally feel like my chest is like lighter. Like I was like, I have more room to breathe.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting thing to like actually feel in my body. I didn't realize how much of it I was holding on to because I had told myself so much, like, I've gotten over it. I've gotten over it. I've gotten over it. And it was like, I needed that last thing. So that rage is really, I believe, what propels us forward to be like, no, I can do this. Like I've got
anger,
this. And I believe in myself.
As a positive thing.
Yeah.
And I think that ties in kind of to the end of this quote that I'll share too with Brianna Wiest. It's because we are letting go of our old selves, right? But with that, it means that we let go of the relationships that we had and like all the ties that we had too. So the second half of the quote is, the people who are meant for you are going to meet you on the other side. You're going to build a new comfort zone around the things that actually move you forward. Instead of being liked, you're going to be loved. Instead of being understood, you're going to be seen. All you're going to lose is what was built for a person you no longer are. Mm. And so this is when we recognize our patterns. We understand what we want and who we are. We address the feelings to those patterns. And then we start to formulate an opinion of what we want to be. And I think that's the most difficult thing because it's letting go of a lot of the things that have held you back, which you thought were keeping you safe and happy. But it could just be that those things were the ones that were making you so unhappy and so frustrated and actually hurting you the most. Because the unknown is probably the most scary thing out there. Like the unknown of if I do have this conversation, what's going to happen? If I do tell the truth, what's going to happen? If I actually say what I want, is it going to be okay for everybody else? Right? Mm-hmm. All of those things were dependent on someone else. Right? Now we want to look right back at you and understand and say, when I do those things, then I can actually be happy. I'm going to release all of that for me so it doesn't hold me back anymore. So I'm not worried about what other people think. I'm not worried about what other people want me to do. I'm just worrying about what I want to do. And it comes back to being selfish. And we get out of this self-sabotage. We get out of like keeping and staying small, and we become the best version of ourselves. Like that's where happiness lives, right? So that's what I want for myself, for you, for my kids, for everybody else that even hears this, is that like, I want you to stop worrying about everybody else and start worrying about you.
I love that.
Cool.
Cool. I was thinking while you were reading that quote, when it talks about like letting go of relationships, past relationships, and I know this is going to come up, so I'm going to say it. You feeling like you get to put a boundary up in a relationship just because you think you're keeping yourself safe. Yeah. I would actually have you stop and really question this shit out of whether or not your boundary is actually a form of self-sabotage.
Well, yes, absolutely. Can I add to it?
Please.
Okay. Also, realizing that this relationship that you want to leave or that you feel like you need to leave behind is actually the one that has propelled you to be who you are now.
Explain.
So without this relationship, I wouldn't have known that I wanted something different.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So sure, move on from people, but don't do it until, and I think this is what you're saying, don't do it until you push past every single limit of what makes me uncomfortable about this person.
Yep.
Rather than just running away, stay in it long enough to be like, wow, I pushed through and I did really, really hard things. Now I can peace.
I think what I'm saying is like, yeah, exactly that. It's like, have the conversation. Like, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that are like, I don't talk to my mom anymore, or I don't talk to my sister, or I don't talk to this friend, or like this coworker pissed me off. So like I put a boundary up because I have enough self-respect. And like, I've even said that as far as like, I think boundaries sometimes are a form of self-respect where it's like, no, like there is a time where you do need to cut a relationship off. And I'm not saying you need to keep every toxic relationship in your life. Like that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is exactly what we've been talking about this entire episode is like process through your emotions in that relationship. Mm-hmm. So even if it's your marriage, I want you to go through the emotions and I want you to process them because guess what? They're going to come back and they're going to haunt you in another relationship, or it's going to manifest itself somewhere throughout your life.
Yeah.
So let's just fucking process it now and like then let's move forward, right? Then you can put the boundary in place and be like, you're actually not somebody that I really want a part of my life, and that's okay. I've done that exact same thing in my life. So I would be a hypocrite if I said, no. I want you to keep I want you to keep every relationship with everybody in your life. No, like I'm the queen at like, you're no longer serving me. Okay, cool. Move on. Right. And that's not to say that I'm just like middle finger, move on. Right. I used to be. Now it's like, hold on. What do I have to learn from this relationship? What emotions do I need to process? What is it bringing out for me? Not what you're not doing for me,
because
but like,
I can't control you.
Yeah, I can't control you, but I can control me. So what do I still need to learn from you, or learn from the situation, or learn from like what I'm actually really wanting?
Yep.
And then I can decide to end the relationship if I want to, and be like, okay, cool. You're gonna be a friend that I call maybe like once a year, and you can come to this one thing, or like maybe I don't talk to you ever again, or we're just Instagram friends and I like your stuff and we don't really talk. But like, I know that people are gonna use this as an excuse to be like, I deserve better, and having them in my life is a form of self-sabotage. Like, no, actually putting that boundary up is a form of self-sabotage, and it will be a cycle that you will continually do over and over and over again until you actually face the root cause of why you are like cutting so many people out of your life that way.
Well, it's also simple enough to say, like what we say all the time, love me enough to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
But you have to get to the point to love yourself enough to tell the truth. And before you run away from this relationship, tell the other person the truth too. However much it hurts them, however much it makes you uncomfortable, because what that is going to do is give them the same opportunity that you had in growth. And that's when we know if somebody's ready to move on or if somebody's ready to stick it out. Like truthfully, if you guys can both tell the truth, that's when you'll know. Because then we get to deal with the truth, not just facades, not just did this happen or what's going on and this feels uncomfortable and we're going to step out. So that's when we become happy, is when we don't make it about them anymore, but we're just being honest. And so happiness genuinely is a choice, but the choice lies in, am I going to be reliant on somebody else, or am I going to be very, very self-sufficient and look at myself first, right? Because you can end up frustrated in every single scenario in your life until you start to look at yourself. But happiness is already in you. And that's been a cool thing for us to learn and to teach. So guys, thank you so much for listening. I know we say that at the end of every episode, but it is very, very cool to do this and have people be on the other end. Mm-hmm. And we hope that our message resonates with you, and we hope that you feel inclined enough to share it with somebody that you feel needs to hear it.
We love you guys.